Fibromyalgia. Have you been misunderstood? Hi, I'm Rodger Duckworth, and for the last 30 years I've helped people, often at the edge of despair and losing hope, not only manage their conditions but to overcome their chronic health conditions and pain. Fibromyalgia in the past was thought to be some kind of muscular problem exclusively and to do with fibrosis within the muscular tissues. Now, the research is showing us now that was a myth and that we were quite a long way off the point. Still, a lot of medical practitioners don't really understand fibromyalgia. If they're more rheumatology based or chronic pain based, they may well do. But there's still an awful lot of misunderstanding around fibromyalgia and what it is. Some research recently has led us to understand that it involves the immune system and also that immune system's involvement within the brain itself through things called microglial cells. So there's an inflammatory status that takes place and an immune response in our bodies which takes place with fibromyalgia. And fibromyalgia, for anyone out there that's struggling with this condition, will often say, look, there's a lot more to my struggles and my suffering than pain. They'll often get the so-called fibro fog and this brain fog. And they'll often struggle with a great deal of fatigue. And there's huge overlaps between chronic fatigue syndrome, CFS, ME, and fibromyalgia. And actually, as many of you might know, that if we just understand what's going on underneath the label, then I think we could almost dispense with the label, because it's more about what is out of balance in the body, what is not working quite as intended, and for what reasons, and where did that start to go wrong. So the backstory is always what's more important for me with fibromyalgia. And having worked with fibromyalgia for decades now, I can tell you that nearly always there's a traumatic series of events or traumatizing events, and there's a traumatized nervous system, which is inevitably going to connect to the immune system. And so dysregulation, this disorganization, this lack of balance in the system may manifest in the symptoms which we call fibromyalgia, which will be muscular pain, which is disparate and widespread around the body and often moving and changing and not responsive to conventional physiotherapy. It's not likely to have got any history of a singular muscular event or a traumatic physical orthopedic event. It's not likely to have been due to a sports injury or a fall or some kind of blunt injury. It's more likely to have come gradually over time and perhaps be very linked with stress or very stressful moments in life, like divorce or redundancies or big changes of bereavements in our lives, or having had some really troubled childhood and difficulties throughout our early years. So the backstory is what we nearly always find, what we really need to work on. And so I think people have been getting it wrong with fibromyalgia, and I can really understand now the frustration for a lot of fibromyalgia patients that are not understood and feeling understood, and where the medical community may not necessarily really know quite where to start with them. But I hope that you find that this is maybe relatable and that in some way it helps you feel understood and that you're not alone, and actually that there is hope for your healing.